Alright, so throughout the universe, I think that the color spectrum is one of the most underappreciated and outreaching features, I guess. Because in everything you see, from the red giant stars to the blue dwarf stars, everything is saturated in color, and we never take the time to notice it. So for example, when you woke up in the morning and got ready and got in the car and drove to school, the world around you is filled and flooded with colors, and you never really notice that. It's just something that we take for granted, and we see every day, like breathing and that we're going to get homework. It's just something that happens every day, and you don't notice it because it's something that's always there. So if we didn't have color, if our eyes didn't have like cones or rods, we wouldn't be able to pertain the color, to perceive the color, and so everything would just be black and white, and everything would be completely different. So what people have done over the course of humanity is to use these colors to their advantage. So I can't talk about all the colors because that would take forever, so I'm just going to talk about yellow, because it's one of the colors that is used the most prominently in our society. So in our brain, through our eyes, we see colors, and our eyes send the signal to our brain, and our brain views the color using memories, past memories of that color. So if we see a wall and it's white, then the image of that wall goes into our eyes, to our brain, and we realize that's white because of previous experiences. When we remember as a child, we're learning what the colors are. So also, as our eyes are triggering these neuron synapses in our brain, it also triggers memories and emotions that pertain to that color. So for example, yellow, these are some shades of yellow, but when you see yellow, you subconsciously think of other things that are yellow and the most impacting emotions. So for example, like fall and autumn and traffic signs kind of come up in your mind when you see yellow, because those are things that are yellow and you remember from the past. Yellow also represents happiness and optimism and imagination. And so, for example, like TJ's yellow belt, it can represent optimism that you should keep trying to get your black belt. So it can also cause anxiety or jealousy, and these are kind of the polar opposite of happiness and optimism. But this is all depending on the shade of yellow. So you can see here, yellow kind of goes from a more orangey red color to a really bright yellow, and then this kind of dull, sickly yellow right there. So that kind of yellow, in our brain we see it and we think like dreary and sick and jealousy, and these are all bad things because this kind of color, we see it and we relate this color to maybe the color of someone's skin if they're really sick or something really bad. And so when we see that color, it doesn't make us happy like some other yellows do. For example, the sunshine on a summer day, we can relate the emotion of that day to when we see the color yellow. So this kind of color trick is used a lot in advertisements. And so when we see an advertisement, which we see hundreds of every day, we kind of don't really take notice then. We might read it or look at the picture, but we don't notice the impact that that has on us. So for example, yellow represents some happiness and optimism, and it's used to sell children's items and pleasure items, because when you see that color and you see that product, it brings up and evokes emotions that are happy, and those are the emotions that the advertisers want you to have when you're using that product. So in the same line of thought, you wouldn't have yellow in a really serious advertisement for or say like a suit. You wouldn't sell a suit with yellow because you wouldn't buy a yellow suit, because you don't buy a suit to be happy and imaginative and flouncing around. Use a suit to be serious. It's going to be like black or blue or red. These colors that evoke different emotions and more serious and straightforward trains of thought. So yellow, as one of the brightest colors, it stimulates mental activity. So when you see yellow, like on a yield sign or in nature, a lot of animals use yellow to warn other animals that they're poisonous or dangerous. So when you see that color yellow, it makes you think for a bit, and you're like, whoa, I shouldn't eat that animal because it has poison in it, like the coral snake, for example. So these are some pictures of emotions or events that could evoke those emotions when you see the color yellow. And so in advertisement as well as in nature, the color yellow really brings out a lot of information in your brain that you never really thought of before. So when you see different colors, mainly yellow, you don't realize it, but there's a whole flood of mental information that you're seeing. So as you go throughout the day, when you see these colors, you don't really realize how much your brain is doing. Your brain is working constantly, and without even trying, you just are coming up with all this new information. And so when you see a color, so for example, at my grandma's funeral, I remember there was some really, really red roses that my uncle had brought her. And so I remember that whenever I see like that exact color of red, on roses particularly, it kind of brings up a sad emotion because I remember that. So this kind of thing is really pertinent in kind of PTSD trauma cases, because they think of when you're a child, as you're seeing these colors for the first time, these shades, they really have a really big, deep emotional impact on you. So if something really bad happened and it relates to a color, the PTSD can come up later in life when you see that color, and you don't know why, but it's these really deep set wrinkles in your brain. And so that's why I think that yellow and all the colors are all really cool and important to our everyday life because of all the information they bring to us. That's it.